Welcome back to the Dirt Path podcast. So today, if you were looking at the video, you already know this is a little bit different than some of our recent episodes. I said at one point I wasn't going to be doing these, but you know what? I changed my mind a little bit because today is a celebratory moment for me. So we're going to be doing a solo pod today because I am celebrating 5 years of being a digital nomad. My 5-year Nomadiversary, as I like to say. That's right. It was May 1st in 2021 when I started and got to live out my dream of becoming a digital nomad and living and working remotely all across the globe as an electrical engineer in a very traditional industry. So a bit different and a bit on the dirt path, as you might say. And so today I'm going to be going over different life lessons that I've learned living on the dirt path for 5 years, living all around the world, experiencing different cultures, on the dirt path and as a digital nomad. Now, before we get into these life lessons that I got for you today, I wanted to just go over some of these pretty cool stats around my last 5 years. I plugged everything into AI and just tried to get a little bit of an idea of exactly how crazy I've been and how many places I've been. So let's just paint you a little bit of a picture of what my last 5 years has looked like. And to clarify, I'm only talking about the places that I called a home base. So the places that I lived and worked from. So I'm not including my 30th birthday last year where I did a 10-day epic van life trip through the Lofoten Islands in Norway. I'm not including my afternoon adventure in Monaco, exploring that while I was living in the south of France. I'm only talking about my home bases. All right. So in the last 5 years, I have lived in 5 different continents. So everywhere except for Antarctica and Australia. I have lived and worked from 24 different countries. So again, my total country count is higher. I'm at 41, but 24 different countries that I've lived and worked from. And this one's kind of crazy. 44 unique cities. So sometimes I would go back to the exact same city in the country. Sometimes I would do a new city in that country. So that's pretty crazy. And then the next one that I thought was a bit insane is it was 57 different moves. So 57 different times that I picked up my whole life, which for me is just my suitcase and a backpack, and moved on to a new home base. Now, so the last one sounds kind of like a headache, kind of like a whirlwind, but it doesn't sound as bad when you pair it with this next one, which is I averaged in each place 4.5 weeks. So basically exactly, almost exactly 1 month. And that's great because I always tell people do a month as your minimum. And I did try to stay with that even at the beginning when I did more faster travel, like in 2022, my first full year of nomading, I hit 14 different home bases. Now, again, everywhere I went was pretty much 1 month, but then you're going to have these times where I would travel back to the US for these 1-2 week stints and do a couple different cities, see friends, see family, do stuff for work. So things are always going to come up when you're living this life, but I did try to stick to that 1 month minimum. The country or the place, exact city that I spent the most amount of time was in Cape Town, South Africa. Very close was Bulgaria, but I spent 6 months in Cape Town, only 2 different stints of about 3 months each. The country I visited the most was Bulgaria, where I visited it 4 times. Once to my first time was this place on the Black Sea, Varna, Bulgaria, kind of a random city, to be honest. And then the next 3 times were in Bansko, Bulgaria. Maybe you've heard about me talk about this on the podcast. It's become a huge digital nomad hub in really just this small town in the beautiful mountains of Bulgaria. And so those are some of the things that I wanted to share just to kind of set up this conversation and talk through a little bit of the crazy life that I've lived these 5 years. Putting it into this perspective does make it seem a bit crazy. And when I think about it, these 5 years, my life has totally, totally changed. And how I view the world has totally changed. The person I am, I've totally, totally changed. And it feels way more than 5 years. It feels like a lifetime ago, multiple lifetimes ago, to be honest, before I was a digital nomad. And part of that is because there's just so many more memories that I had. There's so many more unique moments and different things. My brain is just filled and filled and filled to the brim with these unique memories. And to be honest, sometimes, unfortunately, I forget some of them. But it just feels like this totally different life. And the snap moment that I started to say, I'm not going to be an observer of my own life. I'm going to be in control of my own life. And that's really why I enjoy celebrating my Nomadiversary, sometimes even more than my birthday, because it was a really pivotal moment for me of getting to this point in my life where I'm not perfect, but I do try to be more in control of different things and stop using these as excuses and really see things as opportunities. All right. That was a lot of blabbering and a lot of an intro from me. So let's just get into I think I have 8 different life lessons from 5 years of living as a digital nomad, living on the dirt path while working remotely and traveling abroad. Number 1 is that 99% of people out there are good. Maybe for some people, they're like, what the heck? Other people are like, you gotta be kidding me. I see people just throw trash on the ground all the time. And okay, people make these different mistakes, but I'm talking about really to the core of when you meet somebody, that we're good people. And I think nomading, it almost makes life a bit of an experiment in a way, because you're constantly going to new countries, you're seeing different cultures. And so you're constantly putting yourself in this frame of like experimentation, of trying different things. And so if you go into that with a curious and open mind, you're going to really see a lot. And so this was one of the first lessons that I learned traveling years and years ago, which, when you're traveling, you just tend to meet so many more people than you would just at home and in your day-to-day life. In your day-to-day life, you're in a bit of a bubble with the people that you hang out with, right? You have your core group of friends. You have the people that you typically talk to at work, the typical people you see on your routine. Maybe you go to the same cafe and you interact with the same barista or a couple baristas. And every once in a while, maybe once a week, go to a new bar and you meet a couple new people. You play a sports game after work, you meet a couple new people. So you are meeting people, but when you're traveling, everybody is new. You're constantly going to different cafes and having a chat with the baristas. Also, the mindset is a bit different. When you're at home, you're typically kind of satisfied in your group of friends and different things. You're not actively all the time looking for new and different people to chat with. Where you're traveling, you are, because you want to meet locals and have more of a local experience, or see how the locals live in a place, or you want to meet other travelers to go, live and explore with, even if you're already traveling with a friend or a close one like I have. And so you start to just meet way more people than you would at home. And in doing so, if you're, again, curious and you're genuinely asking questions, you can really get to the core of what makes people tick. And that's one of my favorite things, is breaking down, especially the different cultural bubbles and understanding those and why people are different and make different decisions when they come from different places. But ultimately, that people are good. And I think this is maybe a crazy statement today just because of social media and because of how the media portrays people. But you have to remember the people that are doing these crazy things that are online that get us really frustrated and anxious and crazed that we see on the media. These are the 0.001% of people that are out there that are just getting this crazy amount of attention, because we are meant to focus on fear. And that's what the traditional media does so well, is they give you different things from all around the US or all around the world that point in on the fear, because they're trying to get your attention over that random TikTok video. And that TikTok video is showing you this other crazy video that's trying to get your attention. And we as humans are just built to focus on fear more than anything else. And so it can be really easy, if we're not actively meeting new people, if we're not living our experiences, but going through these crazy reels and TikToks and Facebook posts, and that becomes our experiences. And we're only seeing this really loud but really small percentage of people. It can really start to twist our brain of, man, people out there are just lost. Half the people in the US are just immoral because they vote a different way or whatever it is from you. But I think when you actually meet people, you're really confronted by the fact that most people out in this world are good. Now, number 2 is don't get too attached to labels. So I consider myself a digital nomad. A lot of my friends call themselves digital nomads. Others hate the term. Others want to be known as a slow mad or just a traveler or an expat or a remote worker. And it varies for every single person. Some, again, want to have their unique label. Some people avoid labels at all costs. But to me, what I've learned is just to not get too attached. What I sometimes see is somebody is a slow mad, but then maybe they won't go just 1 month to a place because, that would go against my label. And this is the same in our day-to-day life with our work and our jobs. I was an electrical engineer, so I was an engineer. And when I went to eventually create my own role as an HR person, am I no longer an engineer? Well, I studied that and I still think kind of like an engineer, but now am I an HR person? How do I describe myself? And we can really start to trip ourselves up and focus way too much, to be honest, on these labels. And the labels are great for a basic initial introduction to somebody when you don't have a lot of time. You're introducing yourself to somebody for general statistics out there on digital nomads and how they travel. But they really, really suck when you actually get to know somebody and when you're actually making your day-to-day decisions on how you want to live your life. We have now decided to make this small town in Maine our home base. And we're going to do a whole episode on that, probably the next one. But does that mean I'm still a digital nomad if I'm spending 6 months of every year in this one town? Am I a digital snowbird? As I had Steph on a few episodes back. What am I? And the honest answer is it doesn't matter. I'm still going to call myself digital nomad because that's just what people know. But is that really what I am? If you look up the definition, I'm not sure. But I don't really care. And I don't want to trip myself up on obsessing on whatever this label is and letting that get in the way of just living my day-to-day life. And when I get to really know people, they know exactly who I am and everything past the label. Okay, number 3 is very simple sounding, but very, very hard to do, is just be intentional. So for digital nomads, I just talked about, I had 57 different moves. That's 57 different times that I had to think about where I was going next. And I'm a planner, so most of those aren't last minute, like some of the people I know, my girlfriend Paige. But that's a lot of mental energy of choosing where you're going to go. And for some people, and especially for me, like when I started, a lot of nomads, when we start, we're so high off just living this new life. Like, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Like, we have reasons of why we might go somewhere. It's okay for this historical thing, or I've always wanted to go here because they have really cool beaches, or I've heard so many different things about the food, or whatever it is. But after a while for nomads, we get to this other phase of wanting to slow down, of wanting different home bases, build more community in places. We start to see the things that we really, really like in a place, which is really unique, I think, to nomads, because again, if you've only lived in your hometown or your state the whole time and, a couple apartments, you just know your experience. And I've lived in those 57 different moves. I lived in 57 different, unique homes, and different countries and different cultures. And so you start to see the little things that are really important to you. So for me, walkability is a huge one. And why we chose this little town in Maine is it's very walkable to many places, which is rare for the US. But as you travel more, you start to see what do you like and what do you really not like in a place. And the other part is you're going to have goals. You're going to have things that you really care about. So for some people, and I had a stint of this, it's sports, it's hobbies. So I went to Colombia, for example, for 2 months with a big reason of I wanted to learn Spanish. So 2 hours, 5 days a week, I was doing Spanish lessons. I went to 6 weeks in Paracas, Peru, this small town in the south of Peru on the beach, because I wanted to further my kite surfing. I had tried it before, and I want to go to a place where it was windy pretty much every day. And that's what I did. I just kite surfed every day, had a very basic life, but it was amazing for me because I was really intentional about that. And again, in nomading, we see this all the time. And I'm picking on my girlfriend, Paige, again for this one, because the way she used to travel wasn't always the most intentional. And again, you can get away with that a lot, especially for somebody like me or her who has a lot of different interests. But I remember when she was going to Tenerife, an island, a Spanish island, and I decided to change plans and join her so we could continue kind of that exploring and dating at the very beginning of after meeting each other. And I asked her, why Tenerife? And she didn't really know why. She didn't have an immediate answer. I was like, well, we met this person and they said it was cool. And we did a neighboring island, and so we're going to try it. I said, okay, well, sure. I mean, I didn't really care because my intention was to further and potentially see if there's a potential relationship between us. But for her and for many different people that I see it's this common trend within nomads. And again, while at the beginning, and you can get away with that if you have a wide amount of interest, it can start to kind of weigh on you a bit because you're not necessarily reaching a specific goal. You don't have something driving you. And I remember Tenerife was an interesting spot for us. We had a lot going on. My girlfriend had a lot going on, but it was this beautiful, beautiful place, but just wasn't it. And not that if you're intentional, you're never going to have these moments, but if you're intentional with the decisions that you make of what is my goal right now, what is my priority, I'm going to try to decide where I live because of that, or I'm going to decide to change companies because of that, because I want to be a nomad and my current company said no, so I'm going to risk it and try to find a new company. Whatever decisions that you have in your life, trying to be intentional of what is your goal, and is this decision bringing me towards that goal, or is it for enjoyment, or is it fun? Just having some sort of reason before making your decision. So a simple one, but when you break it down, I feel like it's a bit complicated and often to forget. Easy to forget. All right, number 4 is trust your experiences, but be skeptical of your thoughts. So let me paint a picture. My first ever solo international trip was to Colombia. I don't remember exactly why I wanted to go there. I'm ironically talking about the intentionality piece. I think I found a really good flight. It was easy to get to from Colorado. I was wanting to learn Spanish, so I'd be able to do a little bit more there. I had heard cool things and wanted to try the cuisine. But I remember when I was researching it, and I just had this idea in my head, imprinted from the news, imprinted from social media, from these different places, from just friends or people that hadn't been there but told me different things of, how it is because of what they heard on the news and whatever. When I was looking of where to go, I remember I didn't go to Medellin because, Medellin was really unsafe. And I just did a very, very, very quick Google search way back when. And the funny one was right before I go, my mom called my sister. And she's like, we cannot let Grayson go on this trip. He's going to get murdered. We have to stop him at all costs. And my sister's like, whoa, calm down. He's going to be fine, I think, but I don't know. And she told me I still went, but I do remember being so frightened, to be honest. This was, again, my first solo international trip. I hadn't done South America yet. I just had this image in my mind of Colombia from Narcos and whatever the media paints it as being dangerous. And I remember when I first got to Bogota in my apartment, I almost ran to the door and was fidgeting with the keys really fast to open my door to hurry up and get inside to safety. And all of a sudden, fast forward to, I had a blast in Colombia. From the first full day I was there, went on a tour. I was with people the whole time, doing all sorts of really cool experiences. And not that you don't have to be conscious of where you are at what times, not go to certain places at night, like most cities. But yeah, I felt safe overall. And the coolest part to me was I met these really badass solo female travelers that were doing 3, 4, 6 months all throughout Latin America. And I asked them, like, do you not feel unsafe? They're like, no, I mean, I just do these different things and I do what I can. And yeah, it's been fine. It's been awesome. It's been fun. And so that was one of those times when I just said, oh, I need to start being more skeptical of what thoughts I have about a place, especially if I haven't been there and I'm talking to people who haven't been there and I'm just getting my information from the news or social media or whatever, because ultimately, really, you can really only trust your experiences. And the way the news and social media is nowadays with the grabbing your attention, to me, it's less trustworthy than ever. And so that was a really big moment for me of, I really just need to trust my own experiences and maybe have some people that I trust more than others. I'll be a skeptic of everything, but trust more than others of, hey, if you've been here, what was it really like, boots on the ground? Because if you don't have that experience, if you're not talking to somebody with that direct experience, you're just not going to get the accurate picture. And this is with everything, right? I mean, before I was a entrepreneur months ago, when I made that switch from being in corporate life all my life, becoming a digital nomad, most of my friends were entrepreneurs. And so I did get an idea of from their day-to-day life and from how they look at life and what they view things of, oh, this is what it is to be an entrepreneur. I saw the really low lows. I saw the really low highs. And I had this idea of this is what it is. And a lot of that sure is accurate. A lot of that I'm saying the exact same tropes now that I'm an entrepreneur. But until I'm fully in it, it's hard to have that exact feeling. And so that's why number 4, trust your experiences, be skeptical of your thoughts, especially with where you're getting these thoughts. Really question that. Number 5, no person is perfect and no place is perfect either. And like people with places, we can learn to like because, but we love despite. This is actually, I don't watch much TV, but the other day I watched like this random rom-com on Netflix, and I think one of the persons said this of, we like because, but we love despite. And she listed all these, kind of crappy reasons why she loved, the husband she was about to marry, even despite all these like corny things that he does. And it's the same with places, right? Again, I've lived in 44 different cities over the past 5 years. And for the first couple of years of that, I was like, I just want to find the perfect place, right? The perfect thing for me. Like, these are the different things I like. I like access to nature. I like walkability. I like a vibrant food scene. I like a nomadic community, but also ways to get into the local community and all these different things, this giant list. And I've been to so many places that I love, but I would always find something that I was like, not perfect. And we do the same thing with people and with relationships, right? I remember when years and years before I met my current girlfriend, when I was on a long streak of trying to find my person, you'd always find these little things of why they're not for you. And some are definitely valid if you got your needs list and your wants list correctly dialed in. But ultimately, when you feel like you find your person, you know that, and we all understand that humans aren't perfect. And so when you find your person, they're not going to be perfect, but you love them despite their imperfections. And sometimes those are even the things that you love about them. And that we like people because, right? We like them because they're really fun and they're really smart. But the reason why we don't love them is their imperfections are just not for us. And it's the exact same thing with places. And so when you are a digital nomad and when you're constantly going place to place, again, you're constantly trying to find this perfect place, but ultimately you realize this. You just realize no place is perfect. And you have to do the same thing like you would with trying to find a long-term partner with a best friend of what is my needs list? What are the nice to haves? And try to get everything on your needs list with as much as nice to haves, and maybe something will surprise you that should be on the list that wasn't. And so out of all places in the world, we are now home basing in, again, a small town in Maine. But I'll give you, while we'll do a whole episode on this coming up of why we're coming here specifically, I'll talk about one of the other home bases that I love. One of the places that I've been to a lot is Bansko, Bulgaria, that town in the mountains I was talking about. I like it because it's a huge nomad scene. They have all these different co-working spaces, so it's really great to have a great routine. I go to the river in the morning to do natural cold plunges, which is really cool. Take friends up there and do that. They have, a nice gym that I go to and different options for there. I go to the farmer's market every Sunday and got this really good quality food. I like the Bulgarian cuisine, really close by to these beautiful mountains, which is great for skiing in the winter and hiking in the summer. So for me, all these different reasons to like it. But there's a lot of things not to like about the place. I mean, I love Bulgarians, but sometimes they do have that kind of cold front. And so that pushes a lot of people off because, especially coming from the US, culturally, it seems rude because they don't include all the niceties and different things in their speech. They don't smile a lot. Actually, smiling is kind of rude sometimes. People and take it as that. And things don't look the nicest. We got a more modern apartment in this little town of Bulgaria, and compared to modern of the US, it looks nothing like it. It looks like an outdated like cabin type of vibe. It's a small town, so the cuisine is limited. It's not the most vibrant of cuisines. Even if you love Bulgarian food, like you're going to run out of different things to eat there. And so a lot of different reasons why it's not perfect, but I love it because of those reasons. I love with the cold front and the different, it's not always easy with people, but I would go to like the same lunch place almost every day, for example, and I love to see how long it would take before I could finally get them to smile. I could finally get a little level deeper and peel off that cold front and see if I can get to that warm center. They didn't have the most vibrant of food scene, so, I really focus on cooking there because they have a lot of different great ingredients. And, hey, Greece is only a couple hour drive away, so every once in a while, go to Greece and have some awesome Greek food, mix it up a little bit there. And so, just like people, places are the same. None are going to be perfect, and finding, it's great to find the places you like but ultimately you're going to love people and places despite. All right, number 6, empowerment is the most powerful drug out there. Randomly mix in small challenges for comforts, and the big challenges will start to feel small. So for a lot of digital nomads, I think this is one of the love-hate part of the relationship, right? Is you are constantly faced with figuring out and facing new things. Okay, let me give you an example. One of my first just struggles of the nomad life was one of the most basic things that we do every week, laundry. Okay, I did laundry in Colorado every week and, use this washing machine in my building, and okay, this is laundry. Then when I went to start traveling, I had to all of a sudden figure out a different laundry machine in Bulgarian. And how do I translate this and pick the right one? You don't know at all what setting you're going to do. Or, okay, there's no laundry in my building, so I have to go to a laundromat and communicate with them of how do I want it? Do I want certain things, not dried or anything like that? I remember the first time I used one of the hanging things, like clotheslines. We were in downtown Nice, this really cool apartment right in the center of downtown, Old Town Nice, France. And we had a clothesline of, outside the window, and it faced the alley or whatever down below. And so I'd never used a clothesline before. I just put all my shirts and everything out there, and all of a sudden, later that day, I went and 3 of my favorite shirts were gone, just lost forever to the alley below. Another time in Bulgaria, apparently I didn't learn that lesson because later in Bulgaria, I used the clothesline and I didn't come home until later. It was outside, and I didn't use clothespins again for whatever reason. I hadn't learned that. And my clothes were all over this garden. They all got dirty, so I just had to wash them over again. I've learned probably 8 different types of ways to make coffee while a nomad, like 4 different types of espresso machines and of how to use, and all these different things that for the little day-to-day things, you're constantly learning new stuff. And it's challenging, right? To use this thing that you've never learned before. And it can be really freaking annoying. I'll be honest. This is, for some nomads, like, especially when you move so much, this is one of the things that can really get to you. But it's also one of the reasons why I love nomading, is because you constantly have these little challenges, these little things that make you feel empowered when you do it. When you learn this new coffee machine and it takes a couple of times with this new espresso maker to figure it out, and all of a sudden, you make the best espresso like that you've had, or at least the only drinkable espresso that you've been able to make for the first week. And while this feels really, really small, and it is, this feeling of empowerment and that you have to face when you're a digital nomad, these small little victories of challenging things makes you feel so good whenever something harder comes up with work, with life. And it's something that I'm really thinking about coming back to the US, right? We all like our different creature comforts, but I'm trying to think of different ways I can make my life a little bit harder, do a little bit hard things here and there, because I miss those little challenges, because it really does set your brain to, I can't do this, to, yeah, I can figure that out. And it's that mindset, it's that muscle that you work over and over and over and over again that will eventually make you feel like you're just unstoppable with whatever comes your way. Number 7, you are the problem and you are the solution. So one of the interesting things with Nomad, and we talked about this a little bit on some of the recent podcasts, is that it's really easy to blame. We constantly do this in life, right? We make excuses of it's something other than ourselves. It's our environment, it's politics, it's the weather, it's whatever it is, anything but us. And when you nomad, you really confront this idea, because you say, well, I'm not in shape because, I just don't have a gym near me. And I just need a better fitness routine, and I wish it was more affordable to hire a trainer. So then you go to a place like a Bali for 3 months. You have the access to hire the personal trainer, go to some of the best gyms in the world for crazy reduced price that you would in the US. And for some reason, you still don't. And it's really confronting when you realize, maybe it's not the access, maybe it's not necessarily the price, it's just I'm being lazy, right? A lot of people talk about, and it is very true, in a sense, that it's hard to get in a routine as a nomad, but it goes a little bit to, one, how fast you're going. If you're going to a place for 1 or 2 weeks, it's exhausting to try to figure out where to go to the gym, what grocery store you're going to do to be able to eat healthier every single week in a new place. But if you're staying a month, okay, I usually figure all that out in my first day, if not, before I get there. And if it's your goal, you can make it happen. So actually probably the first year while I nomaded was probably the healthiest and most consistent I've ever been with the gym. And I would go to, 1 month in Spain. I remember I had access to this really, really cool gym in Valencia, Spain. And I think it was probably less than $30 a month. And then a few months later, I'm in this tiny town on the beach in Sri Lanka. Just the most different gym, let's just say, I've ever been to. Like, the bars were these like tiny bars. Like, the weights were really weird. Everything was metal and rusty, but hey, it's weights. You lift them and you get stronger. And I just remember this, and I hear, people talking about, it's just hard to do it because it's inconsistent. But here I am, I'm at the same place for, less time than they are. And somehow I'm doing it. And so I think that's with whatever it is. It's not just being healthy and working out. It's also like having a meditation practice. It's whatever you're trying to work on. It's, being around, okay, you want to be better with your business. You're a new entrepreneur. You want to be better with your business. And It's just because I'm not in like an environment with other entrepreneurs. So you go to an environment like we were in Copenhagen earlier this a few months ago, an island in Thailand. Tons of digital nomads, met tons of different entrepreneurs. But if you never put yourself out there to meet them, you're still going to be saying the same thing. And so again, it's just really confronting when you're a nomad. Is you start to realize, and you start to quote Taylor Swift, I am the problem, it's me, I'm the problem. But on the same side, you start to realize, okay, I'm the problem, but I'm the solution. I'm the one that put me in this, but I can also solve this, right? To help out, it's nice as a nomad because you can intentionally go somewhere to fully change your environment, and that can help. But also wherever you are, if you're just living in a place at home, you can do stuff to make change of whatever you are looking to do. And the last one, number 8, is that curious travel is the best thing that you can do for your own personal growth. If you talk to anybody that travels, they're going to say how impactful it is for personal growth. Same will an entrepreneur say about being an entrepreneur. Same will somebody that just moved, out of their hometown, somebody that had a big career change. And I've done a lot of these. I lived in, all over the US growing up, changed my hometown all the time. I had a big career change from engineering to HR, total lifestyle change, living in just Colorado to a nomad, becoming now an entrepreneur, and all of these things, and reading personal growth books, listening to podcasts. All of these things are great. Podcasts are especially great, depending on which one you choose. But the number one thing, and it's not even close, is that traveling, and specifically curious traveling, has been the best for my personal development. I just talked about a little bit ago all these small challenges that you're faced with. And so that is a big part of it, right? Learning how to work with the 9 different coffee makers, and types of different things that I've had to learn, how to do laundry in all these different places, just how to figure out little things. But also I say curious traveling because you can travel to a place, especially if you're just doing resorts and stuff like this. You're not going to get the full picture of what it feels like to live in a place, what the culture is, what are the cultural differences that make you confront different ways and how you view life. Like we were just in Bali a couple months ago, and we did this tour, and we did this all-day tour where this guy took us, and we did like a water purification ceremony. But first we went to his house, and his family made us this little homemade snack. And they have a certain different type of house in Bali where they all kind of live together. So there's a little communal temple at the beginning or in the middle, and then to the side is the parents' house, or the kind of head of the family. And then over here was his brother's house, and then it was, his daughter sleeps, 2 daughters sleep here, and then his son sleeps over there. And so he took us in, and you got to see this. So that's, first of all, very eye-opening. And it's not like these places were filled to the brim with luxurious furniture. It was quite bare. And if they even took us in and they dressed us in some of the local garb to do this water purification ceremony, and you could see the pride on even the kids' faces of putting us on this stuff, putting us in this local garb, and you could see the genuine smiles of all of them of taking us to do these things. And we know how much we're paying him. We know we met him because he was our Uber driver the day before. We see the type of place that he lives in. For the US, this would be considered, super, super poor, right? To live in a house like this, you would be like, oh my gosh, my life is over. But somehow some person can have so little, yet, be so happy, be smiling more than I do. And so really, when you're curious traveling, you start to open your eye to different things like this, different moments like this that really make you question things. That to me makes me question what really drives happiness, what really drives contentment. If in the US we chase the glitz and the glamour, the things, the experiences, the status, but somebody with so much less seems so much happier than I am. And it was similar. We just did a 2-week vacation before we got to the US in South Korea. And that was my first time in East Asia. It's like a whole new different kind of cultural experience that I haven't done yet. And I was really excited about it specifically for this new cultural experience because I knew that it was going to be very, very different from everything that I've done. And one of the examples is just the food. Almost everywhere you go to Korea, the way that they sit you down at a restaurant, the way you eat at a restaurant is just vastly different than the US and most other places. You're ordering off of like a tablet. You cook your own food. Like a lot of different Korean barbecue places, you're cooking your own barbecue. There's a certain order of things that you just kind of have to figure out or ask a local or research online. Like you would do these different hot pots or different experiences, and it can be really confusing. We had a lot of friends that just, they don't even partake in some of that stuff. They'll just go to like a Subway or some chain food restaurant over there because they want to avoid looking like a fool and going into a restaurant and not knowing how to figure it out. But so there's these differences, and there's also, the aspect of safety. So safety in Korea, I mean, it's an incredibly, incredibly safe spot. We, in the US, we think about going abroad and just generally like, oh, it's so unsafe, right? And we were confronted with this when we were in Korea, and we were lucky enough, some of our nomad friends there, they knew a local that took us around all day and asking them tons and tons of questions. And one of the things that you'll see is, when you go to a restaurant, it's a busy restaurant, you get the table first and then you go to order. Well, in the US, you send somebody to sit at the table and maybe take your bag because you wouldn't ever just leave your bag there, and the other person goes to order. Or you just, we'll just get whatever table, there is, we're just going to go order and then go. You would never, leave something nicer. Maybe you'd leave like a jacket, right? But in Korea, they would leave these really expensive purses, just this tiny purse on this one table just to save it until they order and they get over there. Or our friend talked about it as a joke of how he would take out his phone, his wallet, his keys, and just throw it on the table because he knew how safe it was. And it was almost like this like weird flex for him of, yeah, it's safe. I have zero worries about somebody's going to take this. You could leave your phone there at a restaurant, go back the next day, 100%. It's right there. And so these different things just start hitting you over and over and over when you're in the US, when you're curious traveling, and when you're thinking about these things. You're going to start to realize you're going to get out of this bubble that you're in, right? Because wherever you are, you're in a bubble. The hometown you grew up is a bubble. Everybody kind of thinks somewhat similar. They have somewhat of a similar culture. Everybody in that state is in a bubble. Everybody in your country is in a bubble. Everybody in your continent. There's the next level of the bubble. And the more bubbles you can pop, as I like to say it with traveling, and again, opening your eye to seeing that, it's just going to completely open up your world. It's going to challenge all these different beliefs that you have and completely change the way you think and the way and type of person you are. So again, I've done, I'm a new entrepreneur and I'm learning tons of things there. I changed my career from engineering to HR, and I just blew up like all these different ways of thinking that I had. So many different things. And I've read all these books. I've listened to hours and hours of podcasts, and all these things are great. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm doing them all. But my advice to anybody out there is do what you can to try to go travel curiously. Go to a new spot. Don't listen to, somebody that's never been there tell you their opinion of why it's unsafe or why it's this or that. Do some research, try to find somebody that's actually been there and maybe get an opinion from them, or just trust your gut and go to somewhere if you're curious about it. And be open-minded, be genuinely asking questions to understand, not to tell them. And I think you're going to start to really change and really see the world differently. I did. It's been an incredible experience. It's why, after I got a taste of traveling years and years ago, why I got hooked and why I wanted to make it my life. And now I'm celebrating over 5 years of being a digital nomad, being able to live all around the world. And it's really, really special to me. And so I hope some of these life lessons resonated Let me know in the comments of what I got wrong, why, what resonated, because my life is kind of an experiment a little bit, and it's very different from the norm, which comes with unique challenges. But there's also so many universal truths, I think, that we start to figure out about ourselves, about the world, about people. And so these are 8 of mine, at least as of today. Maybe tomorrow it'll change. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it all this way, or if you've listened to multiple episodes, this is also another milestone for the podcast. This is 6 months. This is episode 26 of doing the pod. We haven't missed a week. I told myself I'm going to be doing a year without missing a week. We are halfway through, and to be honest, I'm loving it. I'm learning so much from the different guests and just the whole experience doing this behind the scene week after week. And I love it. And I hope you guys love it too. If it's resonating in any way, please give us a 5 stars on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you listen. Share it with a friend that you think some of these truths today might resonate, or share your favorite episode and let us know what it has been. Subscribe on YouTube, follow us. Please continue to just support the show, watch whatever it is for you, and we'll see you next week here on The Dirt Path.
Saw the exit sign flash by, a whisper in the breeze said take a chance, don't wonder why, just follow where it leads. Oh, the dirt path, it ain't easy, no map to guide the way. Slow and hard, sometimes uneasy, you stumble through the clay. No signs to tell you where you're bound, no traffic to obey. But every step on broken ground builds something great someday.